All right. Well, hello and welcome to the Everyday Tarot podcast, your deep dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, hallowed high priestess, tarot reader, and professional witch. And today I'm joined by my guest, Julia Popescu. Would you like to intro yourself?
Hi, Camille. Thank you so much for having me. I'm the artist and owner behind the art brand Snakes for Hair. And my brand is known for my line of decorative altar candles that I make the art for, as well as I have a couple tarot decks under my belt as well, which is probably the main reason why I'm here today.
Yeah, and that's definitely how I got introduced to your work. So, yeah, I'll have your website and Instagram. Your website is snakesforhair.com, easy. And then I know on Instagram, your snakes for the number hair.
Someone else
Um,
got to the preposition before me.
yeah. Yeah. If folks hear this episode and you want to be a guest on the podcast or you want me to try to get someone else on, I do have the guest inquiry form linked. I've shared Julia's work through the Goddess of Love tarot deck that I have. So, yeah, you can check out those episodes. So, yeah, I would love to start with the name of your kind of like brand and art, Snakes for Hair. Like, why that name. I have some assumptions and I read a little bit, I think, on your website about it, but I'd love to have you share why the name.
Yeah, well, I dabble in, mythology, not only tarot, but, symbolism, myth, mystical traditions the world over. And of course, Snakes for Hair is a Medusa reference. I reference a lot of Greek mythology, but really the name comes from when I was brainstorming with my friends. Like, I need a name. I swear that like finding like the typeface and like the name is like the hardest part of starting a business. The rest of
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
easier compared to that. So I used to wear two braids. Like, that was just like my signature look. And a friend of mine was like, Snakes for Hair. And I thought, oh my God, that's just such like a cute, quirky take on the occult, which um appealed to me. And in retrospect, I'm so happy that, I mean, I still today love the name. Like, I feel like it really represents my brand ethos and aesthetic, which I hope comes off as like not an intimidating brand of the occult and witchcraft, but something super accessible um, to practitioners of all kinds of backgrounds. I just like don't like to take myself too seriously, so I just like, I love the name. And um, yeah, that's really the story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very cool. Yeah, I love that kind of like the accessibility of it. Because yeah, some occult things, there's some gatekeepers around or people that, say you need to do it a certain way. I know that comes up with tarot too, kind of like myths about tarot, or that you have to be given a deck, or that you have to, I don't know, have the Rider Waite deck first, or kind of some of these things that I'm like, in my opinion, I'm like, no, no, you can do whatever you want. Um, there's no need for those kind of, in my opinion, yeah, like traditional ideas about it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Um,
can't wait for, yeah, us to talk more, because I think that we are probably on the same page on a lot of those matters.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a really very by the books person. Yeah, and I wanted to add, like, a lot of my process is, I mean, my interpretation is that it is kind of divine downloads, or happy accidents, where I look back later and I'm like, wow, I'm so glad that like I made that choice, or somebody brought that energy into the brand or whatever it is, because it just revealed itself later that it served me in some new way that I didn't plan on. I also think about Medusa as, she represents a lot of things, but one of her domains is protection, and I feel I'm so thankful that I have that symbology and meaning kind of like baked into my brand,
Yeah.
So whatever candle you're working with or tarot deck you're working with, I'd like to think that there is this veil of protection, and that
Yeah.
wasn't my plan, so I'm very grateful.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that when it's sort of like, yeah, the name was fun, it made sense, it like kind of felt intuitively right, and now that you've gone along, it's like, "Oh yeah, okay, it really sticks with these values," like it makes almost more sense looking back on it.
Yeah, absolutely, and even, now, like, with the world that we're currently in, like, there's never I'm not gonna say never, but in recent history, not been more need for that, divine rage,
Yeah.
um, and goddess energy.
Yeah, yeah, which I think, yeah, Medusa embodies that sort of, like, forced into a certain situation, trauma, and then almost like, yeah, finding purpose or empowerment or, something to make out of it.
Yeah,
And then
exactly, exactly.
yeah, very cool. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like there's sort of, yeah, these like values underlying your your brand and your art. Like how do you describe your style of art or like I guess like what speaks to you when you're creating?
Yeah, my art, um, to describe it to those who are not familiar with it, I think it's like a little bit, dreamscapey, dreamlike. There's a surreal quality, um, and I grew up on punk, and I think that has totally contributed to my aesthetic. I always loved like the zine aesthetic, analog, cut and paste, imperfect. And I think that definitely shows in my artwork years and years later. I mean, I made zines in the 90s when I was in high school for, Riot Girl, and I
Yeah.
made flyers for like, the punk rock shows. Um, that I put on around town, and I still so much, like, love that aesthetic.
I want to talk about the deck and the style that I kind of know you from, which is the Goddess of Love one. But I was also just thinking about that sort of like collage style. It, right, like inherently, it sort of takes things that already exist and pieces them together or makes something new out of them. Um, and I don't know if I'd thought about that before, but I'm like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense um, that's kind of wrapped up in your art style as well. That like there are these historical pieces, or I know again, like goddesses or things that have like a certain imagery, and then you get to kind of like remix them or pull different things together that, yeah, maybe wouldn't necessarily be thought of as going together. But then when you see it as the whole, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that reminds me, that before I became a full-time artist, I worked in fashion archives,
Yeah.
so that definitely creeps into my aesthetic, my worldview. I think, like, also there's very much, like, um, an international, like, multi-culti aesthetic to
Yeah.
my work, um, that is I mean, very, very me. Like um, before starting my business, now I don't go anywhere. I just stay in New York and I work all the time. But I used to travel everywhere, and I took such an interest when I was in fashion archives with um, textiles, um, and um, different design techniques, and styles from like all over the world. And I definitely can't help but incorporate that into my work.
Yeah, yeah, right, and fashion, of course, is kind of and I think art in general, right, is almost always referencing something from
Yeah.
the past or a current idea or and yeah, I think that definitely comes, like, through in fashion of referencing a certain time period or designer or fabric, that it's like it gives you a certain feeling and maybe you don't even know why.
Yeah.
But the artist, right,
Absolutely.
has put so much intention into every piece, every, again, fabric or design or how it falls on someone, that yeah, it's like even if maybe I as the consumer or client don't see, like or don't know all the references, it still creates a certain feeling about
Yeah.
it.
You definitely nailed it. I'm a Pisces, and we're just all about feelings. And
Yeah,
I don't think when you engage with my art or my tarot cards or my candles, that you have to appreciate and comprehend every reference. Um, you just have to swim around in the feeling. And um, my aim is that, yeah, you connect to it in another world. It doesn't have to be this one.
yeah, yeah, I love that, like, the Pisces kind of, like, imagery there. I also feel like the Pisces I know, I'm like, I'll do a lot of art, or I know one person that does a lot of watercolor, that yeah, it just made me think of that too, of that sort of, like, flowing aspect, and, like, mutability.
Yeah,
Or like you're
absolutely.
saying, like, travel, right? Like, picking
Yeah,
things up from different places and getting really inspired or, like, latching onto something, and then bringing that back with you. That's very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. You get it. You see me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would love to talk about, like, creating the art for the Goddess of Love tarot deck. Like, how did that come about? I imagine that was, like, a very big project, doing all of
Yeah.
that
Oh, man, that was
art.
a massive project. Gabby was like we used to joke like we were art wives because
Yeah.
it just like was, you know,
Good match.
yeah, we worked on it morning, noon, night, weekends, for like 9 months.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, we didn't even meet in real life until the launch party. So,
Wow. That's
Gabby's
so cool.
in, so we're talking about Gabriella Herstick, amazing, amazing author, um, West Coast witch. And she just found me on social media um, and just cold emailed me and asked if I would want to design, her tarot deck that she had a concept for. And it's really funny. Literally the day before she contacted me, I was in stories. I engage a lot in stories, like poll people like, "Hey, should I like make this candle, or should I like try this or whatever?" And I was like, "Should I like make an oracle deck?" And someone was like, "No, you should make a tarot deck." And I was like, "Hell no." I was like, I just like don't have the wherewithal to make a tarot deck. That's
Yeah,
so
right.
like,
It's like it's a certain amount of cards. Again,
yeah.
there's so
And
much, like,
I
tradition
was,
around it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm such a slow creator. In art school, my teachers actually used to approach my workstation and start working on my work for me so they could like speed up the process in class, it made me insane. Like, I just, like, am not a quick artist. I mean, nowadays I'm much quicker, but this was, a few years ago when I purely worked with my hands, like analog only. So, yeah, I got her email and I thought, "Oh my God, how am I gonna handle this?" And, but we got to talking and she shared her concept and I just decided I was gonna make it happen. And I was just gonna be totally devoted to this project for the amount of time that we had. We were given a deadline. We had a publisher. And it was awesome. It was like when I look at those cards, like they really transport me back to this beautiful time for me where it was such a privilege to just live in this world all the time with these goddesses, with Gabby. Gabby is amazing. I just like want the world to know what a totally um like magical, beautiful, generous, radical, amazing person she is. And she's such a pleasure to work with. Like she's just such a great collaborator. And she also pushed me artistically. She just brought ideas to the table I never would have thought of. Like she was awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of we worked off, Google Docs. There was a lot of voice notes. And a lot of uh yeah, a lot of back and forth for a long time until we completed it. And I'm still so happy with it. I think
Yeah.
she had such a beautiful concept and it was really an honor to support her vision and I still love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. Like you said, I mean, 9 months, that's wild and fast, and, like, how do you feel like you knew it was a good fit? It sounds like you sort of had this beforehand of being like, "Oh," someone sort of saying you should make a tarot deck, and you were like, no, no
Yeah,
way."
but it's like in the end I moved forward with it. I decided it was a challenge worth taking and that
Mm,
I was going to just figure it out. And what that meant was learning how to work digitally. Um, so I did both for those 9 months. I worked digitally and I worked with my hands. And I'm like so glad that obviously there's a million reasons I'm so glad I did it, but I mean, I just got a tutor. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like learn how to make art with the computer and I have to figure this out like yesterday. So, I like hired someone and I learned the tools and I'm really glad I did because now like I have this under my belt and we can talk maybe later about like my artistic practice right now, which is more of a hybrid, but of analog and digital. But for the past few years, I've been working a lot digitally now. So that's a skill that I wouldn't have under my belt if I hadn't, taken on the project. So I think I just 9 times out of 10, I'll like complain about a huge project. I'll be like, oh my God, no, I'm like way too lazy or busy. And then I just need to do that for like 2 days and like then push through it and be like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then it'll be done and it'll be worth it. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and it sounds like too, it's almost I can imagine that it's like, oh, when you can see the vision of it, then it's like,
yeah,
okay, now I feel like maybe I could do it.
yeah,
Even if it's gonna be a lot of work or you have to learn something new.
yeah, yeah. And then there's also like, when a project of that scope arrives on your desk, it's like there's also this like curiosity, like it's almost like a neural itch where I'm like, what would that look like? Like,
Yeah.
because you don't know what it'll look like until you dig in, and like there's always that like, oh, that's like very interesting idea. Like the love goddesses in tarot, like as collage, like I wonder how that will turn out. So in the end, probably, that was a factor too, was I just was eager to see the project myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that you were like there was an intrigue about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you said sort of you worked back and forth, I mean, like, all virtually, basically, like, with the goddesses, like, yeah, what I'm like, how did you like, who would pick what goddess for what card or the imagery or it sounds like it was, it's very interwoven, but I'm just so curious about like, oh yeah, how did okay, you find the goddess, this person, this Kali or whatever. How do you select the certain image for them that matches the card and
Yeah. So, um, concept wise, all decisions were 100% Gabby. I mean, it was all thought out by her.
yeah.
And it was fully
So that
her
was part of what she
decision.
came
Yeah,
with, like,
so I was
to
really
you.
just the supporter on that.
Yeah.
She decided what goddess to ascribe to what tarot card. Um, and then my job, because it was a collage project, oh my God, like more than half of it, like was just me sourcing. Like I spent a ton of time at the New York Public Library picture collection, which if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's like this New York gem. Um, the big library in Midtown has this whole department devoted just to images. So I spent time in that, and various other archives, and the internet, just sourcing for open source imagery that I could cut up and manipulate and make my own. And so I would just, yeah, I would pull and arrange and show her. And sometimes she loved it. And sometimes she also had she gave me a lot of direction, in terms of like, I want, like, I really need a chalice in this card, or, there needs to be like a red rose or something like that. But then it was up to me to like, to kind of run with that.
Yeah.
Which is like a way I really love to work with. I love direction in collaborations. But then I love like, then after that, there's like this level of trust. Like, okay, you creatively do whatever you want with the scaffolding that I'm providing. So yeah, that's how it worked really. Like she gave me these kind of like, not abstract, but yeah, like, pared down, um, uh, um, instructions or whatever. And then I had like the freedom to kind of play within that. And sometimes, it wasn't the right vibe, and she would ask to see something else. And sometimes, we nailed it right away. Some cards were definitely harder to bring into the world than others. And that's when, like, I swear that project really, I believed in it so much.
Mhm.
I was like, this deck is going to be magic. It's going to like do what it's meant to do, because I was there for it. And it was like magical for both of us. Like there were times where we were just stuck, and like we didn't know, we were just stuck on a card. And so I would like pray to Venus. I would light my Venus candle. If we were working on Venus, we would work with Venus that week. I feel like, I swear, the goddesses would like, come down and help when we called them. So, and there was just so much, synchronicity involved in the making of it. And, just what felt like support from the universe. And so I was like, I felt that this deck was going to be something for those reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. Like you said, that even, yeah, when it felt stuck or something, it's like you had the vision was there still to figure out, okay, how are we gonna, what's gonna come through? What's the connection piece? Do you remember any of those like hard cards or stuck places that you,
Yeah, Venus. Venus Aphrodite as the Empress was
Okay.
definitely one of the hardest ones. And collaborations are also tricky when, as an artist, you have ego and you think something you made is the best thing. And you're like, okay, I don't want anyone to touch this. It's perfect. And like, I hope like my collaborator loves it, because if she doesn't, then I don't know what I'm going to do. And that was how I felt about Venus. Like,
Hmm.
I worked on her pretty early on and I was like in love with this Venus. And it took me it was like a journey to get there, but by the time I got there I like really loved her, and I was like, I held on to her for like a month. I didn't want to show it to Gabby because I was like, if she doesn't like it, I just will be so sad. And finally I showed it to Gabby. She wanted a lot more for it, so I didn't get like the response that I desired. Um, and I said, okay, I'll just go back to work, and I'll like make the edits that she's asked for. And I did. And the card was like a million times better than the one that I felt so attached to. Um, and it ended up being the cover, you know?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's like, it's a good collaborating can be a healthy exercise in uh, destroying the ego.
Yeah. I had to pull the card so I can look at it. Yeah, there is a lot going on. Um,
I think she just wanted to, I mean, I don't think, I know she just wanted to like make it truer to, the kind of classic Empress
yeah.
card, with the Venus symbol on the shield. And um, we have some dolphins in there, right? For love.
Hmm. Yeah. And there are dolphins in, I think, some of the other cups cards, maybe.
Yeah. So again, that was Gabby. She had a lot of like, just kind of basic ideas for each suit. Like, okay, I want like, let's throw some dolphins in the cups. And it was her idea, of course, the roses for wands. Um, so yeah, a lot of the decision making was her. Which I love. That's where it's like artists can kind of get stuck in their signatures, and she had really cool ideas that I would not have had. She's a highly creative person.
Yeah. Yeah. And very prolific. I feel
Yeah.
like she's
Yeah.
written so much as well. I mean, even this tarot deck has a lot of writing in it, right? Like it's very in depth in the guidebook about the goddess and the affiliations and the art. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you said, that there was this sort of, it just worked really well that she was able to direct in this way and you were able to meet her there with
Yeah.
the art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm curious. So, right, this is kind of collage art. It sounds like digitally, a lot of it. Collage. Like, what do you like about collage? I guess I'm calling it collage. I don't know if that's the
Yeah,
correct
yeah. Collage
word.
is the word I
Yeah.
use.
Okay.
What I like about it, especially for my brand and for my practice, is collage is a process of magic, serendipity, surrender to the universe. Um, it's because when I go into making a collage, illustration is a lot different. But when I go into, or painting or whatever, but if I go into like making a collage, I I just I don't I usually have like a rough idea of what I want to make, but the rest is like up to God, It's like whatever comes my way. And sometimes like things come your way in really divine ways, like my other tarot deck that I did on my own. Um called Hong Kong Garden. Um, I had very little time to make that. And I made the artwork first. And I researched, of course, along the way with, I didn't mention when we were talking about my art, it's obviously it's very like richly symbolic. Like everything is just layers and layers of symbolism. So as I was making that deck, um, which by the way, for background for anyone that doesn't know it, I had an artist residency here in New York in Chinatown, at Chinatown Soup, which is this really dope um, art collective and gallery. And so what I completed during my residency was a tarot deck to um, be an ode to the space, to the neighborhood. Um, and the deck is based on Chinese mythology and botanicals. So I did go into it when I was making it, researching the symbols and whatnot. But the actual like ultimate arrangement of each card and some of the symbols that I found, and so I added maybe for aesthetics or something. So then when I went back and I wrote the companion book,
Mm.
it was like unbelievable how perfectly the symbols were. Like it was like I it was it was uncanny how like perfectly placed they were in this card, how much meaning how much relevance they had to the meaning of the card. Um and so that's what I love about collage. That
Yeah.
it's like I think you're channeling is really what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's really like my you know, if we're as practitioners of whatever you want to call yourself, witch or whatever, um, everyone has like a strength, right? Or everyone has like their form of magic. And um, I'm not like clairvoyant. I'm not whatever audiovoyant. Is that a word? I just made it up. But I feel like my pathway is art. Like I channel through making things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I can imagine too that that's part of perhaps like how you can do things quickly sometimes is like you just really get into the channeling of it, which can be very like energy intensive. But it sounds like when the project is right or when you're kind of in this like crunch deadline. I don't know, as someone that like has ADHD, I'm always like, I love a deadline. Like I don't, but then when it's there, it's so helpful to like I can focus on the thing and just like really, yeah, spend a lot of hours focusing on it and then create a cool thing in like a pretty quick amount of time. Um, and yeah, I love how you described collage because you're right. It is, like you said, sometimes it's like, oh, Gabby wanted a specific image for a card and you went to find it. But I also imagine when you go looking for images, sometimes you find things that you didn't expect, or you're like, oh, I want to use that for another card, that it can work both ways. It's like you can have the card idea and find the image, or you sometimes can have the image and then find the right card for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm realizing that I also love collage. It's part of what I love about this deck and Gabby's style too, right? Like she was doing collage prior to this deck and a lot of her like yeah, witchy like moon guidebooks and or workbooks and stuff. She does a lot of collage. I like to do like tarot card crafting on index cards with like other people as like workshops where we basically do collage. And it's always fun to see like, yeah, what came first, the image, or like, do you know what card you're making when
Yeah.
when you start, or do you find all the images, like you said, sort of through serendipity or, something fell open or someone handed you something. Um, and then you can kind of work that way of like, oh, okay, I want to use this image. What card could this be? I think is very cool. I think it also, like you said, with your own deck, it's like sometimes connections are made almost like unconsciously, subconsciously
Yeah.
that you don't even know until you kind of get to the part where, like you said, you're making the guidebook and you were like, oh, yeah, it totally makes sense. Didn't really realize that at the time, but now it just like came through, like you said, of channeling that. Yep, it just made sense. And now I kind of have like, now I have the proof as to why it works. But um, yeah,
Absolutely. And that's just so rewarding. Like there's nothing more satisfying if like you do what I do, which is, make art for prayer and, manifestation. Like that's like it's so it's just very inspiring and uplifting. It's like you love that confirmation that like the the uni's holding your hand.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious, you talked about being a practitioner. Do you identify as a witch? Like what are your sounds like you sort of have practices that get interwoven into your business. Like do you have personal practices that are separate from that? Is every day a practice and no matter what you're doing, does it kind of come out that way? I that's like four questions, so
Yeah, no, you're
you
you're
take
like
what you
nailing it,
yeah.
honestly. Like I feel that I just nowadays I just my work is my practice. Um, spending all day making art, um, and I work with the candles, not as much as I used to, but I do. Um, that's really my practice. I don't really do anything um very elaborate. Um, I I've just reached a point spiritually where my practice, like it's all kind of one big prayer, or the candles are like my vision board. Um, and um, and I'm also, small business owner and artist, so I work 7 days a week, and that's very convenient, to see the work as like, yeah, we use the word interwoven, which was very appropriate. Um, yeah, that's pretty much my practice.
Yeah. Yeah, so you also make, like, prayer votive candles. How does that, I don't know, differ from other stuff we've talked about, or how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so that's how I started my brand. And I mean, I do love candles and candle magic. And I, for fun, around 2017, I just started applying my work to altar candles because I thought it would probably enhance my magic, if I made the work myself and I lit it on fire, what
Yeah.
could be more empowering. And so I was just doing that for myself. I was doing it for fun. Um, not for, for fun and for practice. And then friends started asking me to make them a candle. And so I would learn like, oh, so like my friend wants to find a new job, like who's in charge of that,
Mm.
and I would kind of like research. Um, and then friends of friends and then stores started asking to sell them. And so that's just when I had to start a business. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is a business. I need like an online store. Um, and nowadays when yeah, where does the inspiration come from? Really all over the place. I um my last candle that I finished actually was a commission. I mean, it was just a private client who approached me, and she commissioned me to make her a custom candle of, I don't even know how to pronounce her name, Makosh, Mokosh. She's like a Ukrainian goddess of
Okay.
fertility, weaving, death, moistness. Um, so I got to work making her, um, and showed um, my client, who was really happy, and I was really happy with it too. I was like, "Gosh, I'm so proud of this one. Do you mind if I share it in stories?" Um, and I of course I ask her first because it's her magic and it's her candle, and she was so sweet. She said, "Oh, like please do, and like if you want, like add it to your line. Like I really want to like get her out in the world." Like this client
Oh,
is
cool.
Ukrainian herself, and she's like, "I
Yeah.
just want more people to know about her, um and like that would be so great if you could offer her to other people." And I like thought that was so lovely and generous and like such an honor to the goddess. So, um this just happened like yesterday, so she's not in my line yet, but,
Yeah,
you
but
can expect
coming
her.
soon.
Yeah, coming soon, this summer, probably in June, she'll be live, but, um, I mean, that's one of many stories, so for me, it's like one way that the brand is truly like an organic process, um, and it's it's just authentic because I've made these candles, for other humans with magical needs. It wasn't just like, oh, what's going to sell,
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, um but there's like real stories, more often than not. Um and if there's not a real story, it's, usually there's an artistic reason. I chose um I chose to make a candle.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the story behind the candles. And I um I designed for, deities of all traditions and backgrounds. And um I hope that, I can't say there's something for everyone because that's impossible, but I was excited about, this last one because I realized, I don't have a deity from the Slavic, canon. What's the word I'm looking for? Tradition, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think. Sometimes I forget what I have in my collection, to be honest. So yeah, I thought, oh, what a great like new addition.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it sounds like, yeah, like you said, an organic process by which you also get to, like, learn about different goddesses. And yeah, I mean, one thing I love about the Goddess of Love tarot deck is that, yeah, there are goddesses that aren't just the Greek and Roman ones that, like, mostly get talked about in kind of, like, Western tradition, that there are other ones woven in that maybe people haven't heard of or just don't, yeah, or just don't know a lot about. And that can be a cool way, like you said, to kind of like get to know other traditions or seen, yeah, other things that are upheld by other goddesses.
Yeah, absolutely. We did aim to be inclusive, you know. That was definitely at the forefront of our our thinking and our vision.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, right, doing an entire tarot deck, you have the opportunity to have a lot of different representation there by basically. I mean, one thing I love about collecting tarot decks is that, yeah, you basically get 78 unique art pieces from creators that are usually fairly affordable um, in that way that, yeah, it's a lot of work. But it's a cool way to like have someone's art in your home also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
playing cards.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, it's just like you said, sort of like it's a way to get to know certain like energies or goddesses, or like I have decks about numerology or astrology or dream oracles where sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can go to that deck for a certain thing, but also just by using it, I am learning in that way,
Yeah.
which is very cool. Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious. I was looking at poking around on your website and I see that you offer tarot readings on your site. What kind of tarot reader are you? Tell me about
I'm like kind of circling back to what we were talking about in the beginning. I'm like 50% uh by the books, meaning like, you have to study tarot to read tarot. You have to study the meanings of the cards and their symbolism, but as a reader, you also, I mean, you can do what you want. I also have to rely on my intuition. Context is, of course, a big thing not to be overlooked. And so I think it's like 50%, my academic and 50%, um, downloads or the creative brain. Um, and I, um, I don't read reverse. Um, this is something I learned from my friend Annabelle Gatt, the astrologer. I don't know if you know her, but um, it was just something she taught me. I've learned a little bit about reading tarot from her. And she said, why read uh, a card upside down? Like we don't read books upside down.
it.
Um,
Yeah.
and that just like resonated with me. So that's just also something to know about my practice, which is, polemical. Some people probably like are like horrified to hear that, but that's my way.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, going back to, what we were talking about at the beginning, I don't like to rely so heavily on dogma and systems. So, using like certain spreads like Tree of Life, it's just, for me, like the intellectual stuff, I get bogged down by it and then it thwarts my intuition, it thwarts my creativity. Um, so I guess you could say like, that's also a very Piscean approach to reading tarot.
Yeah. I mean, right. There's sort of the like the big picture, right? That I think Pisces can be about. I think also, yeah, like you said, sort of from an art perspective. Um, I guess there is some art that's meant to be seen from like different angles or things, but usually there's a preferred way to hang the painting or a preferred way to look at the statue or things that the artist intended. Whereas, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily intend your card to be turned upside down to look at it.
Yeah, I love that. I really actually like that analogy. I'm going to use that sometime.
Yeah. 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 I was talking to another tarot reader yesterday, and it's interesting the reversal thing because I feel like I do meet like a good amount of people that are like, no, I don't do that. Or they'll ask me, and I'm like, well, I do sometimes. To me, it really depends on the deck.
Uh-huh.
Some decks I would, they lend well to reversals. Some decks I have either the art or the I don't know, energy of the cards, or if it's like oracle or something, then I'm usually like, no.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting. I like that approach because it's true that like some decks artistically can function really well upside down.
yeah. Or
Like,
like I have a deck that has both like vertical cards and horizontal. And in that deck, I'm like, well, I wouldn't even like, how do you like, I wouldn't even know what an upset, like a reversal would look like because I don't shuffle the cards horizontally.
yeah,
So like I would maybe shuffle them one way and put it down. But yeah. Yeah. And I think some guidebooks, right, have reversal definitions. So when that happens, sometimes I'm like, well, okay, like there was some intention around like what a reversal would look like. But a lot of my decks don't do that at all. And
yeah.
so, um,
And you
but I
said
also,
you do feel like you meet a fair share of people that don't read reverse. Interesting.
yeah, yeah, like the person I met yesterday, they were like, no, I don't do that. I've led like tarot meetup groups where it's just like anyone that's interested or talk about tarot, we would talk about it. And I feel like it's hard for new readers to read reversals too, because it's like, are you kidding me? Now I have to learn like 78 more, like
Totally.
definitions. Um, and yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know if it's like more common, but I think I definitely like find people that are like that or will ask me to like, do you? Um, and I'm sort of like yeah, whatever works for you kind of person. Or even if I'm reading for someone, like I will sort of say like, well, this one has a reversal definition in the guidebook and like this is what it says, or like maybe it's feeling challenging right now, or you're kind of like on your way there. Um, but yeah, some decks I don't really think lend well towards reversals, so I don't really try to force it.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's very sensible.
Yeah. And I think that that's like very much how I am as a tarot reader, which is like it depends on the deck, depends on the person, like it's context dependent,
Yeah,
like you're
again, it
giving.
goes back to context. Yeah,
Yeah.
tarot is like all about that.
Yeah.
What are the cards alongside it? Like, what's the question? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, or even, yeah, like I'll bring multiple decks and be like, what deck do you want me to pull from? Like, which one is speaking to you or are you interested in? Sometimes that can be like my first introduction to like their energy or kind of like what they're interested in is like, oh, what deck did you pick? Which one stood out to you today?
Do you
Um,
ever mix decks in a reading?
Um, I have done it in a reading, um, not super often, but I did one this year where I found a reading in particular that like said to do it, to pull like different cards from different decks, and I thought that was cool. Um, I don't usually like shuffle them together. I know some people do, or they have like combo. I would see it more with Oracle, but like Oracle decks where they like combine all of them together. But I have done it. Also when I've done some of my I guess like seasons of tarot, like for the podcast that I've done, I mean I did an episode on every single card. So when I did certain cards, I'd be like, well, we're gonna look at the Empress across 4 different decks. So I'm not necessarily pulling them like in a spread, but I'm comparing or looking at them or seeing like commonalities and stuff. Um, because all of my decks, I would say that I have are like extremely different. I recently got a Rider-Waite Smith deck, but I had not had one for my first kind of like 8 years of reading tarot. So um, it's fun to see, yeah, what symbols across decks are similar, or is it like energetically? I also think like an Empress card in one deck has like different energy than it does in another
Yeah,
deck.
absolutely.
Sometimes it's stronger, like you said, like you're like this one's so like Venusian and Aphrodite. And from people I know, I like have a good friend that does a lot of Venus devotion and stuff. That is how they have described the deity like themselves to me, where they're kind of intense, like they don't really want to share. Like they have, like we talked about altar building, and they were like, yeah, no, they have very specific things that they want from me, and like they don't want anything else on there. Where I can imagine, like you said, in creating that card, that the goddess has some say
Yeah,
in like how it goes, and kind of like what they do or don't want depicted in that way. And whereas some cards might be, I don't know, a little more forgiving, or just like, yeah, open to, oh yeah, sure, like you can have all of this stuff. So
yeah,
yeah.
different cards, like that are the same card from different decks can be, not only a different take, but such confirmation in the reading. Like, okay, you
Yeah.
pulled two empresses, like, but you have
Yeah. Right. Like,
two.
okay, now we're doubling down on
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doubling down and, like, let's explore like these two different aspects of these two different empresses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So when you read for others, do you use your own decks that you've made? Do you?
I do. Uh, Almost always.
Yeah.
I try to include one of my decks. Um, and it depends, yeah, sometimes on the client, sometimes on the mood. If it's an event, then maybe it depends on the event. Um, and I tend to use an oracle deck as well. Um, Probably 80% of the time, I'll like, for example, I'll use like Goddess of Love. Um, and then I pull one card from an oracle deck that I use, which is called Penny Slinger's Tantric Dakini Oracle. And for those unfamiliar, Penny Slinger is an awesome collage artist, actually, um, who created this deck in the 70s. So it really has that like cool analog, like gritty, texture to it. And it's super punk and really beautiful and esoteric. And um, it's like, for me, it's a very optimistic deck. It's like you're not going to be pulling anything that resembles Ten of Swords, for example. Maybe there's
Mm,
like a
yeah.
couple cards where it's like a little bit spooky, but overall, each card has um, a pretty um, transformational message. Um, Airs on the side of optimistic. So I always like to throw, you know, one oracle card in, um, just to hedge my bets. Like sometimes like you just really need to guarantee if like the reading, does have some severity to it. Like there's always going to be a supportive message when I pull from this deck.
Yeah. It's a nice way to end, I suppose, too. As I'm also a therapist, and I'm like, I can totally like do that with clients sometimes, where it's like, yeah, let's like end on like what is working, like how can you support yourself this week, like what, yeah, end on an uplifting message, or a self-care kind of message. I think Oracle too, yeah, again, because I mean they can also be like so wildly different, but um I was going to say, I feel like they generally have a little softer energy, but I don't know actually, because I'm like, totally depends on the oracle. I do think it's interesting when I talk to people like guests or other people that are into tarot or oracle. I usually find that people have a like strong preference at the beginning, is like either you love tarot and you're obsessed and you don't do oracle, or like the opposite, or you're intimidated by the other one at first, which I just, it's interesting. uh,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely used to be one of those people.
yeah, yeah,
I studied Oracle before I studied tarot because I was like, ugh, tarot's too much. Like
yeah, yeah.
it's too
Tarot
much
has
to
like,
take on.
it's like more rigidity, structure, in that way. Yeah, I started with tarot, but almost all the new decks I get are oracle. Um, it has to be something very like stick out energetically to me for another tarot deck, because in some ways, like, yeah, like they're all the same. Like there's a, there is a certain structure. Whereas oracle, yeah, there's a lot more fluidity to it, or I feel like it's adding something, kind of like I said, to my practice of like, oh, I want to learn about numerology. Like, let me get a numerology deck. Um, in that way. Yeah, it's making me think of like right brain, left brain, like preferences, or even earlier when you were talking about like your readings, right? That like some of it is structured by the book, and the other part of it is intuition and context, with that, of just the like, yeah, you kind of need both.
Yeah, you need both.
Too.
I mean, like to just give a reading like purely like I've heard of that happening too. Like I once had a customer who was like, "Oh yeah, I got a reading at like, a fair or something." And she said the person basically just like read off the definitions of each card and like that was the reading. And I was like, "Really? Is that how does that work?" Like that how is that effective?
Yeah,
Um
yeah, that
Not to
is,
talk ill
yeah,
of anyone. I don't know that person, but it yeah, was like an interesting uh yeah, interesting story, interesting idea that you could just like basically you're just like telling somebody the definition of the card and that's the reading. Like
yeah,
there has to be creativity and intuition involved. I think that's the point. It's like exemplifies like you need both. You absolutely need both.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, yeah, it's kind of like, okay, well, if you're not using intuition, then like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I too could just read a tarot guidebook
Yeah.
from start to finish and like, like recite things. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like it doesn't feel personalized, would
Yeah.
be like the other thing that feels like it's missing. Or maybe if you didn't know anything about tarot, you're like, okay, like cool, now what? Like
Yeah.
how does this apply to my life?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know when I like do the podcast and do readings, I try to share like, yeah, what is it making me think of for myself? Even though like for me when I read on the podcast, I'm generally like, this is a collective reading. Like I think that this applies to anyone. Um I try to give examples because I think it is helpful to be like, oh, okay, how does that actually apply to the context of my life or what I'm thinking about in
Yeah.
the moment? Because I think too, it kind of can be like free association, um, that way. And I don't know if people always like understand that about tarot. Um, that, yeah, in my opinion, that like kind of like you were talking about with collage, that it's like, yeah, some of it is like maybe there's certain symbols that we already have ideas about, like roses or other things, and then sometimes there's a certain image or word that just is like, I don't know why this is important, but it feels important to put in the card.
Yeah. Having
Yeah,
said all that, I mean, there are people in the world that can go purely on intuition, and I think those people are just actually gifted psychics, which
yeah,
I once saw a woman that read playing cards, which is not crazy. I mean, that before,
right,
that's what tarot cards once were, but I mean, she was really just, she might as well have been working with like a bundle of sticks,
yeah,
like she just needed something, to look at. And I've seen quite a few people like that they just need like a tool, and then everything else is like just total clairvoyance. And that's a whole other level, beyond just like being a tarot reader. That's like, you know, crystal ball reader or
Yeah, right. It's sort of the like true divination kind of idea of things that you're divining information through
yeah.
whatever medium you so choose. Yeah, yeah, and I do think other mediums, like you said, like that one, it's like there's no symbols really. I guess you have the suits in a deck of cards, and you have pictures of the court cards, but not a lot else to go off of.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean, I will say I'm not there, so I could
yeah,
not read from a deck of cards.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Even though, like you said, it's sort of like perhaps that's part of the history of tarot is that, like, yeah, people were using less symbolic cards. In that way. Although I feel like the history of tarot is still pretty like, do we know like
Yeah.
where it seems
Well,
like
we
it
don't
kind of
know. Yeah.
popped up and yeah, certain I don't know, occulters seem to take ownership of it. But I think it's like it's a form of divination. There are a lot of forms that people have been using for a long time. Yeah. I'm curious like you talk about using your own tarot decks. In my head, I'm like, oh, this sort of feels in that same vein of like the work is your practice, that everything is interwoven. But I'm just sort of curious, like, yeah, energetically, like, how does it feel different? Or I don't, maybe there is no difference to you because you're like, yeah, I'm just used to it. But like, what's it like to use a deck that you had a part in creating?
It's like energetically, I have like an intimacy with them, like,
Yeah.
but you would think that I would probably have like a better like academic understanding of my own cards, and I don't, because I really feel like I wasn't there for the making. Like
Mm,
it really was a channeling. I wasn't
yeah.
there for it. When people are like, "Oh, I love that card," blah blah blah. I'm like, "Great, I thank you. Me too. I love it too." I don't really think I had that much to do with it in a weird way. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but um, I probably to writers that makes sense. I always hear writers talking about their process
Yeah.
as well.
Right, or
Um,
that, like, the characters were telling me to do this or write
yeah,
this, or it was pouring out of me in this way.
exactly. Like that's yeah, which reminds me, I do written readings and I also do live readings. If you go to
Mm,
my website and you want a
yeah,
reading from me, I offer both. But I I do written readings, and I feel that there's more channeling when I write. Or maybe it's just a different kind of channeling. I don't have any like scientific proof for, which of my readings is better, um but yeah, going back to what we were talking about, I just have it's like a closeness and familiarity working with my cards, but you would be surprised how much I'm like, "Oh, yeah, what does that flower mean again? I can't remember." I can't
yeah,
remember the symbology behind that, daffodil or whatever. So I do have to, I do brush up on my studies. Like I'm always doing that. Like every couple months, like I have, my books on my coffee table, and sometime in the morning, I'll be like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna like brush up on that guidebook I wrote because I have an event this weekend and I like need to be ready,
yeah,
stuff like that. um so yeah, but I also just think it's a good idea to use my own decks so that I get better at using them. Like after all, like I made them, and who should be better at working with their own tarot decks than the maker? Um, so it's a good exercise for me to always work with my deck.
yeah. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask, like, do you ever feel like tired from channeling? I don't know if you like either through work or otherwise energetically.
Only when it's like an event and I'm like in hour 3,
Yeah.
and it's like you need to take a break.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't do it enough that I get tired really. Like it's part of my practice, but
Yeah.
I'm not like a full-time reader. So I really enjoy it because I'm not at the point where it's right now. I'm at the point where it's like a nice break. Like, oh, somebody, asked for a tarot reading. Like, let me take a break from art
Yeah.
or
Do
admin or
something
whatever
different.
and like
Yeah.
dig into the cards.
Yeah. 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 I imagine, yeah, it's kind of like you get to engage yourself and like the energy differently. Um, yeah, I used to, so last year I put out a podcast every day, Monday through Friday, which was a lot. And I used to try to like do multiple episodes in one day, and I couldn't do more than three from like I think like a channeling energetic perspective. I would either like lose my voice or I would just like kind of, my brain would turn to mush, I felt.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. That's a lot, honestly. Yeah. I don't know how.
yeah, yeah, and it wouldn't always be like 3 hours, but right, it's a lot of like, yeah. I did feel like that with the podcasts, probably in a similar way to writing, like it does feel like channeling sometimes, which in some ways makes it like easy because it feels like I'm not like thinking about everything I say. But then, like you said, I still also will have the experience of like someone referencing something, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And I used to just be like, okay, yeah, I can't do more than three in one day. That's too many for me.
Yeah, that
And
would be too
yeah,
much.
my voice would be like, no. Yeah. Are there any new projects you want to talk about? I know you kind of teased the new candle that's coming in a couple months, but
Yeah, I mean, this summer I'm really just I have no projects that I'm really happy. I just want to be in my art studio, like getting back to watercolors,
mm,
oil pastels. I'm painting and illustrating more. I'm just trying to like flex that muscle this summer and get back to working with my hands as much as possible. And I I just I I I hope I don't get any projects just yet. I really do. I just want to be like on art vacation mode at the moment because I have been working a lot on other projects, like big ones, and
yeah,
I need a little art break. I need like to get back to drawing. I don't know if I can how much I can talk about it. I do have a project that I've been working on with this. I want to mention it because you said that you're a therapist.
mm-hmm.
So um, Dr. Jillian O'Shea Brown is a, a therapist, psychoanalyst based here in New York. Um, and we worked on a project together that is not coming out for a couple of years. So you have time to get to know her and learn about her. And she's awesome. She's, um, yeah, someone that you'll be, hearing more about from me
Cool,
soon as we bring our project out into the world. But yeah, look into her, Jillian O'Shea Brown. She's a gifted therapist.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put their website in the references. I pulled it up
Yeah.
now. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think I've been enjoying just the way that, uh, I guess like other, what am I even saying? Just like other ways of talking or using tarot that maybe people don't think of, like writing about it, or I think, yeah, talking about like psychology of it, I think is, um, I've read some books like that, or there's Tarot for Change, kind of like using it as self growth or self work. I think that's becoming more like popular or maybe mainstream, maybe not
Yeah.
necessarily popular, but um, I think it is really cool. I sometimes use it in therapy with clients. I put it in my like bio basically that I'm like, yeah, I'm like into tarot and stuff. So people know that they can they can talk to me about it. But
Yeah.
I like using it sort of as like art therapy, which is kind of like pulling things from it or looking at certain ideas and trying to like kind of take it back to like what does this make you think of? Or I've even done ones where it's like kind of like what you're talking about with like protection, kind of like magic, of saying like, okay, go through the deck and pull the cards that you feel like are your like protectors, or just like very different ways of kind of using decks can be very cool. I think especially because it brings another level to like talk therapy. Um, to talk more about symbols or kind of the more like intuitive, subconscious parts of ourselves, which I really like. So I'll be looking out for this project.
Yeah, yeah, I think you'll find it like super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is there anything I didn't ask about that you want to share or want to
No, we
ask
covered a
me?
lot. I was gonna say like just my art practice, but we managed to squeeze that in. So I hope that yeah, you see some changes over the next year, in my work, and it'll be more painterly or
Cool.
illustrative. I don't know, we'll see. Um,
Yeah, that's
but
fun.
yeah. And I do have, since it's a tarot podcast, I do have a lot of tarot candles on my website if you guys want to check it out.
Okay.
I've got the lovers, Ace of Swords, Empress. Um, oh my God. What else? I don't remember. I've also like gotten rid of I used to have death. I don't have that anymore. I have a lot of tarot inspired candles.
Yeah. How do you know when to like when you aren't gonna offer it anymore? Is it just like,
Oh my God, it's totally spontaneous. It's like one day I'm like, this doesn't sell. What it's wasting real estate. And I just take it
okay,
down. There's like rarely a warning. Or maybe, like in stories, I'll be like, hey, like,
last
Hekate's
chance?
going away, like
Yeah,
last chance. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not a good business planner. I'm trying to be better about it, but I'm really, really not. Like,
I don't know that I feel like that's so like I'm like I can totally relate to that even just in the like having done certain business projects where I'm like, yeah, that felt really right at the time and now it feels weird and not right anymore.
yeah,
Where it just feels like, yeah, that's like some old version of myself that like
yeah,
doesn't
totally. That's
exist
usually when
anymore.
it happens. I'm just like, ugh, that's so not my style anymore. Like, ugh, get off my website.
Yeah, I'm looking now. The lovers, yes. The Ace of Swords, I see. I love how much the candles are like wrapped with the imagery. I feel like some candles are very like you put a tiny sticker on it. um, it makes me think of like tattooing, where like when you get a tattoo on your arm, usually the idea is that's gonna like span the entire like canvas that you can
Yeah.
see from left to right.
Yeah.
Um, That's what this looks like to me. Oh yeah, you have lots of goddesses, Kali and Lilith. Okay, I think you did get all the tarot ones. Although I saw one abundance that I wasn't sure if that was
Yeah. Abundance is more
tarot.
like tarot inspired,
Yeah,
the idea of a chalice.
yeah, the art. It's so good. Okay. Well, do you want to pull some cards
Yeah.
to end here? Let's see. Yeah, is there anything we want to ask or pulling for vibes?
Let's see. And the energy of today. What do we need to know today?
Yeah,
What do we
that
need to
sounds
know
good.
today?
Go ahead.
Meaning maybe when this airs.
Yeah. Yeah, we're recording this at the beginning of June. People will see this, I think, mid-July.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I had a card fall out already, so
Oh, you had a little flyaway. Great.
yeah. Let's see. And I'm going to be using the Goddess of Love Tarot.
Nice.
Mine is a very well-used deck.
I love that.
Do you have your card?
Yeah, I'm pulling from Hong Kong Garden,
Okay. Your other deck,
my other deck.
the one you created alone.
If you guys are all wondering, it's named after Susie and the Banshees song. It's just a punk reference. And a lot of the cards are named after punk rock songs too.
Cool.
Like, ooh, I'm gonna tell you one right now. Oh my goodness.
Okay. Do you
All
want to
right.
share your cards? Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. The Tower.
Okay. Wow.
So this is also called A is for Anarchy. That's like a punk song by this punk band, DC punk band in the 90s called Monorchid. So all of my major cards have uh, a second name. Three of Coins,
Mm,
otherwise known as Three of
right.
Pentacles, and the Magician.
Oh, very nice. I'll ask you to send me pictures of these after so I can put them into the
Yeah, absolutely.
easier than trying to hold them up, which I usually do as well, but
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Um,
okay.
well, this is, of course, we're doing a message for the collective. The world is really shedding its skin right now, as we look around at the anarchy. It's for anarchy. You know, it's like I feel like there's fires all around that we are to be putting out. Um, and Three of Pentacles, Three of Coins is like the card of collaborations, working together. We all have a common aim, right? So we've got to come together to address, these needs, because it's like the thing about um, destruction is what is the potential for creation that comes after. Um, the yellow butterfly in Chinese mythology stands for rebirth and also joy.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a very joyful color, like
yeah,
kind of
so
in contrast to the tower. Yeah.
exactly. So there's potential, but it's like, I mean, I've been saying this for quite a few years now. Like everything is so, I know there's a lot of ugliness. Um, but it's almost like it had to get this ugly in order for there to be a real opportunity for rebirth. Um, and I know that sounds like a very privileged take, but you know, we are forced to address these issues. We're forced to wake up. And we've got to just burn it all down to the ground. Um, because then we've got the magician, uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Creation, right? Like,
creation,
yeah.
willpower, using, we have these tools. We just need to pick them up um, and implement them. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's like a very beautiful narrative. It's like destruction, starting anew, building from the ashes. I think of like the collective, right? With the collaboration of the Three of Pentacles too, of like, yeah, we gotta rely on each other, which can be like its own scary tower. It's like, what? Oh no. I gotta like ask for help or rely on other people. And then, yeah, there's sort of that like, yeah, well, if we do that, then anything is possible.
Yeah.
Like the manifestation of the number one, in numerology, that is creation.
Yeah, there's never been a, you know, more important time for community. We need each other. And community, whatever that means to you, doesn't have to be like your immediate, you know, neighborhood, but um, you know, that depends on the context too. But we need each other right now to rebuild.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Well,
What
thank
are
you
your
for sharing that. I pulled them both in reverse, which I was like, huh, it's fun. I pulled the Nine of Pentacles, which also gave me this very like collective.
Yeah.
We even have like the birds on here as, I don't know, kind of, yeah, like serene, and more pentacles and like that we're almost there, right? I think of that always with like the number cards that we're on, you know, if 10 is the completion, 9 is like we're almost there. Also the astrological correspondence is Venus and Virgo. So I was like, of course, Venus is showing up here after we've talked about
Yeah.
her so lovingly today. Um, yeah. So yeah, just like working towards completion, like growth, resources, which again really makes me think of the like kind of collective, like collaboration, prosperity. What else? Yeah, I mean, reverse would be kind of like either, yeah, like feeling fear around like gratitude or even like structure. Um, or just like not knowing, perhaps. That's the one that kind of resonates with me is the like, okay, if 10 is the completion, 9 is I'm almost there, but I still don't know where there is. Um, but I feel okay about that of like not knowing. I definitely have worked on being okay with not knowing what's coming in the future. And I feel like when you're talking about your summer, right, there's sort of the like intention, there's the a bit of like the freedom of, you know, I want to create and not have kind of some deadlines looming over me. Um, and kind of see what comes of that. Yeah, the last line about the reversal is focus on the seeds rather than the future prospect of a garden. So like start where you are, right? Like
Love that. Focus
kind
on
of,
the seeds.
yeah. Which I definitely, as a gardener, I'm like, that's where I'm at right now. It's like I've planted everything and now it's just like, and now you wait. Like you just stare at it and you're like, it's growing, but there's
Yeah.
nothing to harvest yet. Like it's just kind of like, okay, I'm doing the things, I'm watering, I'm planting, and now I wait until kind of like fruition. Um, that we're in like in the middle, which I think too kind of like makes me think of your cards you pulled of like, okay, we've we've been destroyed. The thing that needed to end or release is happening, has happened. And now we kind of have to like wade through the middling part to get to whatever's going to be creating on the other end. And the other card I pulled was Temperance. Um, which I was trying to pull up to know what goddess is on here. Mary Magdalene, and then Sagittarius as the correspondence. And we just had the full moon in Sagittarius as we were recording this. So, like the last day of May was the full moon in Sagittarius. And I always think of kind of like movement, I mean, travel, but like a lot of things like moving through. And even with this card, actually, we have like the wateriness at the top, we have snakes at the bottom, which I feel like are always moving. That's part of what's a little unsettling
Yeah.
about them. Um, yeah, let's see. Reversal asks you to ground and go inward. It's time to be decisive, to see things from another angle, and to find balance if you're straying too far from center. Yeah. So there's like a bit of like duality
Yeah.
I think going on, which again, like with the cups at the top, I get that of kind of like, okay, we're mixing things together. How do we balance? How do we do that? Find balance between heart and mind.
How do we integrate?
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of like, what is that holy water going to become when it's all kind of mixed together? And with like Mary Magdalene, I also just think of like the balance of like knowing your own values and like intention and focus and kind of having to like not care what other people think about it. Or like what they see of you or what they perceive or project. That there's like, okay, no, I'm clear about what I'm doing. And I kind of have to just be like, they get to think whatever they want over there.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. You asked
Yeah.
great questions, and
Thanks.
I appreciate your
Yeah. So yeah, I'll
curiosity.
have, oh yeah. Yeah. So I'll have your links at the bottom. I pulled, I have the link for the Goddess of Love tarot deck. I'll find the Penny Slingers one. I already found it actually. And you pulled from the Hong Kong Garden. So yeah, folks want to further connect with Julia, you can find you at Snakes for Hair, the number 4, or snakesforhair.ny at gmail.com. If folks want to be a guest on the show, I have the guest inquiry linked. I'll have the links for all the tarot decks we talk about in the show notes and on my website if people want to find them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday. Folks can email me, me at CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, and more. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.
Thank you.